today's class. Start recording for the ones who was not here. Class. Let me share the screen. Let's focus on these videos. Okay, guys. Let's see. Okay. Let's begin with Adam Smith. Okay, over here they talk about this one is about the invisible hand, and this one is something essential. Adam Smith. Who is Adam Smith? We're gonna talk about who was Adam Smith. Okay.
Hey, I'm James Otteson, professor of economics at Wake Forest University. This video, part of a Fraser Institute series on the key ideas of Adam Smith, based on my book, The Essential Adam Smith, provides a quick snapshot of Smith's life and work. Who was Adam Smith? Born in 1723 in Kirkcaldy, Scotland, Smith is widely recognized as the founding father of economics. At an early age in Scotland, Smith learned Latin, mathematics, history, and writing. And at 14, he entered the University of Glasgow to study moral philosophy before beginning postgraduate studies at the University of Oxford in England. Disenchanted with the quality of instruction, however, Smith left Oxford in 1746. He worked for a time as a public lecturer before returning to the University of Glasgow as a professor, where he eventually became the head of moral philosophy. His lectures laid the foundation for his first published book, The Theory of Moral Sentiments, which elevated Smith's reputation both in Britain and Europe. After 12 years in Glasgow, he resigned his professorship and toured Europe as a tutor for a young British aristocrat. He met many intellectuals, including Voltaire and the economist Francois Quesnay of the French physiocrats, who argued for fewer trade barriers and freer economies with less government regulation and lower taxes. His time in France was particularly important. While Smith had already developed his own similar ideas, the physiocrats likely helped shape his economic views. When Smith returned to Kirkcaldy in 1766, he was already a key figure of the Scottish Enlightenment, a period of great intellectual accomplishment. Smith devoted the next 10 years to write his most renowned work, The Wealth of Nations, which explored why some countries prosper while others languish in poverty. Published in 1776, it was an instant success, selling out its first edition in just 6 months, and it remains one of the most important and influential scholarly writings of the last millennium. In the days before he died, Smith asked his friends to burn his unpublished manuscripts, all 16 volumes, which likely explored the history of literature, philosophy, poetry, law, and government. As such, except for some essays and lectures, we are left only with his 2 published books, which together comprise a towering achievement in the history of Western thought. They contain insights as relevant today as our world becomes increasingly integrated by trade, finance, and commerce, as when they were written. To learn more about Adam Smith, visit essentialadamsmith.org.
Just trying to disconnect this.
Forest University. This video.
Now this is over here. Talks about that invisible hand that I was talking about. Okay.
The Invisible Hand by Adam Smith. Definition: the invisible hand is an unobservable market force that helps the demand and supply of goods in a free market to reach equilibrium automatically. Understanding. Let's understand what is this invisible hand in the first place. As we know that the government has some interventions over the economy in order to stabilize it. Adam Smith, on the contrary, tried to imply that the market economy actually does these things automatically, so none of the government interventions are needed. And in this case, the invisible hand refers to the market itself, which makes the demand and supply to find their equilibrium with the force of an invisible hand. He explained that an economy will work and function better if the government will leave people alone to buy and sell freely among themselves. Sellers would compete with each other, leading market towards the positive output with the help of an invisible hand. So in this case, if someone puts the price lower or sells goods with better quality will be successful. Therefore, you have to lower your price or offer something better than your competitor. History. Adam Smith has mentioned the invisible hand in his two books. First, in 1759, The Theory of Moral Sentiments. In this work, however, the idea of the market is not discussed yet. Second, by the time he wrote The Wealth of Nations in 1776, Smith had studied the economic models of the French physiocrats for many years, and this book got more famous for the invisible hand idea. The main idea. His laissez-faire of market, which means leave them alone, they'll do themselves. Theory's main idea was that individuals' efforts to pursue their own interest may benefit society more than if their actions were directly intending to benefit society. The reason was that if people try to make their goods better in quality and cheaper in price, then society would also benefit from these qualifications as the sellers do with selling more.
Okay.
Invisible Hand by Adam.
Let's introduce the class to today's first chapter. Already this about this invisible hand. I just wanted to play this information for you for your own knowledge. Now this topic is the one that we are going to start today, and it's about the different kind of economic systems. Basically there are three, but in some of these YouTube videos they talk about four, but anyway we're going to focus on only three of these four that I mentioned. Okay.
We are going to be talking about types of economic systems, and really the reason that I want to do this is so that when you guys come into class on Friday, you've got some background information and you can very quickly get some ideas about how to make your videos. So when we look at the four different types of economic systems, there are four basic economic questions that each one answers. And the reason that they are different is because they each answer the questions differently. They look at what to produce, how to produce it, and for whom to produce it. Those are the three basic economic questions, and you need to be absolutely certain that you know what those questions are. Now, the first type of economic system is a traditional system. This is an economy based on custom. There are not very many of these left. In the past, this has been probably the most popular, the most prominent one, but there are not many of these left. These tend to be, in Eskimo culture or the Australian Aborigines or in some of these real isolated places that live on subsistence agriculture where they just grow enough for themselves. When they look at, in a traditional economic system, when they look at what to produce, it is the needs for survival. That's all they produce. They don't make extra. There's typically no kind of money or anything like that. How to produce it is basically through hunting and gathering. And then for whom to produce it, they make everything for themselves. So there's very little, if any at all, outside trade. They just make enough for themselves and for their family. And like I said, this is very difficult to find in the modern world. The second one is a command economy. In a command economy, the government is the entity that answers the questions of production. In deciding what to produce, the government makes that decision. In deciding how to produce it, the government plans out what factories they're going to have, what jobs people are going to have. The government is in control of everything. When they're looking at for whom they're going to produce it, the government actually controls the distribution of all products. The government decides how to use their resources. This has been the type of economic system that is more common in socialist governments. Probably the best example, if you look here on the right, this is the flag from the former Soviet Union. This is the form of government or the form of economic system that was in the former Soviet government. Basically, the Soviet government said, we're going to make bread on Wednesday, people are going to buy bread on Wednesday, and that's all that's going to be available. There's very little choice by consumers. The third kind is a market economy. This one is also, a pure market economy is also pretty rare, because in a pure market economy, literally the people or the consumers are the only ones who answer the questions of production. So when you're looking at what to produce, it is completely and totally up to consumers. When you look at how to produce it, businesses are the ones who choose what they're going to produce, and then if consumers don't buy it, the businesses go out of business. For whom to produce these goods, it's based on consumers' income. If they can afford it, they can buy it. With a pure market economy, individuals are the ones that are in control. There is no government regulation whatsoever, which means that absolutely nothing would be illegal. If there is a market for it, then people can buy it. There's no government regulation over anything that is produced. There's no government regulation over business, so there are no protections for consumers whatsoever in a pure market economy. The fourth kind is a mixed economy. This is what most countries around the world are. In a mixed economy, consumers and businesses sort of in conjunction with each other make those decisions about the economic questions, but there is some government control. Businesses and consumers decide what to produce, but the government sets up regulations to protect consumers from bad products, from products that are unsafe, from businesses taking advantage of them, that kind of thing. When you look at how to produce it, the government sets safety standards. They don't allow, in the United States, things like child labor. There have to be certain work standards in factories and things like that, or the government will step in and fine the companies or shut them down. When you look at who the goods are produced for, it's based on consumers' income, but there's also some government assistance for people who can't afford certain services. There is, with a mixed economy, like I said, there is some government regulation, but it's mostly for the protection of consumers. Now, when you guys come into class on Friday, I'm going to split you up into groups, and you're going to have to come up with an idea for a video that's based on or that teaches one of these types of economic systems, and then we're going to share them. So be creative, think about some props.
Okay, now you have a big picture of what are those economic systems, okay? They told you the benefits, all the advantage and disadvantage. Let's watch another one.
Nearly every society in the world faces the same fundamental problem: how to distribute limited resources to people in a way that will be fair and effective. This is what is called scarcity, and different societies approach this problem in different ways. There are four essential types of economic systems. The traditional economy is based on culture and rituals and is focused on the community as a whole. Everyone pitches in and benefits from everyone else's efforts. Small societies focused on subsistence farming and hunting are considered traditional economies. An example would be a traditional Inuit village in North America. A command economy relies on the government to make all economic decisions, including allocating and distributing resources and regulating prices and wages. A modern example of a command economy would be North Korea. A market economy is driven by consumers whose decisions determine how the industries and financial markets will operate. Individuals choose how their resources are used, what goods to make, what services to provide, and what jobs to take. In a pure market economy, there is no government involvement. Because of this, there are no true pure market economies. Most societies today have mixed economies, which utilize limited government involvement while also applying free market concepts. One example would be the United States. However, nearly all other countries are some form of mixed economy as well. Each is unique and faces the challenge of finding proper balance between consumer choices and government control.
You see over here, they talk about four ones, but in the book that we are studying, they talk about only this first one, the traditional, the common, and they talk about the market. But really, this market it doesn't exist. Free market it says that in Singapore, but I don't think in Singapore is a pure free market. This one is the most common in Europe and in America, most of the countries here. Is this mix system, okay? And now this is the last one I brought for you guys. This will shape all what we just studied today. Okay guys, this was everything for today guys. I hope you enjoyed. Now we have a big picture about what we're about to study next week. We don't have any more time, so see you next week guys. Have a nice weekend. Bye bye. Take care. Behave.